Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are, and welcome, dear friends, to VCT Stage 2, Week 2. We have bangers all freaking day. I'm Doug, and with me is my main man, DDK. Dan, baby, it's been a while since we've shared the mic. It's always a good time. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm super excited about these matchups. A lot of these teams are looking really good in form right now. So, yeah, as you said, bangers upon bangers. Can't wait to get started.
We won't have to wait for very long, but we do want to wet your whistle a little bit. Get you a little teed up for what we have in front of us today. We've put together a replay package of all of the action that went down. So take a look.
The Astra combo as well with a Killjoy can be so powerful because of Gravity Well mixed in with Nano Swarm, but Dazed shuts it down on the take. They've still got to deal with drones. He's waiting around the corner, up on top of the boxes. His position is solid.
Up, he's looking to commit forward. Spots in, spot sig, bye-bye. Huge opening for Andbox.
Nichols. And there's a follow-up. JC Stani just caught reloading, standing in the open, wasn't anticipating that play. Shot up's in the corner, and Wardell says, hey, I didn't win that last clutch. Watch what I can do instead. A 4K on the round. This time Wardell won't be bested. Oh, no, the ult gets canceled, and so does the spike.
Still hasn't been able to get the spike down. The 100 Shrews going to come out on top of the Cosmic Divide. There's nothing there. Sabrosa with 4. And
critical falls, and now it's just Coach on the back foot of heaven. Finding one, finding two on a Wardell and cover. Make that 3.
trying to get
No way! Moving quickly. Tries to toggle with the snake blade, comes over the top, and Psalms again for the final kill. And Sentinels move on. T1 eliminated from stage 2 of the VCT.
well, folks, hopefully that got your pulse heightened at least just a little bit. Again, for what we have in store, as you see here on the bracket, you've got Cloud9, who 2-0 T1 to get to this point. And then, Dan, actually, you and I haven't talked about this, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on it. We're going to double click here, only because this is the match we're going to be calling as well. Andbox with a surprising 2-0 win over Sentinels. What was your response to that?
Yeah, it's definitely something whereby Andbox as a team, it's been difficult to place them for quite some time. They've been a team that everybody has been definitely giving props in scrims, but obviously scrims is not where, the magic really happens. You have to win those tournament matches. So it seems like they've been able to convert some of the things that have been working for them in those scrims, and they're beginning to kind of find their feet much better with this new iteration of the lineup. Because obviously they have gone through some roster turmoil over the last couple months. So it's good to see that they're starting to find their feet. And Sentinels is a team that's going to be very comfortable and confident. And that kind of playstyle, sometimes they're not going to have their day. And Andbox is one of those teams that can just catch you off guard very easily if you don't put the full respect out there, because they are working hard.
Well, they may have a chance at doing the same thing to Cloud9, but before we dive into that too deeply, as you see here on the screen, this is the menu. This is what's in store for the rest of the day. We're going to kick it off with Cloud9 Blue up against Andbox. And then the loser of that will take on TSM, all here on this channel. And then on the second channel, you've got Immortals up against against NRG, not Nerd Street Gamers, NRG. And then the loser of that is going to take on the aforementioned Sentinels that we were just talking through. Now, Dan, let's talk about what's in front of us. You mentioned Andbox, the work that they put in, how the rosters really that have changed are starting to pay off. Andbox is looking really good. Obviously, a 2-0 win over Sentinels, but how do you match them up against another roster that is constantly changing, that's currently rocking a 6-man roster in Cloud9?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's very hard to know what to expect. And I think Valorant's an interesting game in the sense that there is a little bit more variance just inherent because, compared to CS, there's less rounds that you're playing. So there's less chances to correct things if you get a little bit unfortunate. So you really have to know how to play those advantages and be consistent to be a consistent looking team. That's one of the most difficult things. And it's been really interesting to see some of the additions that have come onto this Cloud9 Blue lineup. It's completely different Cloud9 to, a few months ago. And Floppy is definitely one of the more interesting ones for me. Honestly, all of these players are very interesting. We could spend lots of time talking about them. But for me, Floppy was a player that, in Counter-Strike was definitely one of those players that, of course, he was on the Cloud9 lineup for a time before he moved over to Valorant, but one of those players that had incredible mechanical skill, looked really, really good, but was sort of like a diamond in the rough. Definitely needed to kind of, polish up his gameplay, get a little bit smarter with how he approaches certain things. But in that sense, he was a player finding his limits, given the fact that, again, really skilled and I don't think in CS, wasn't really in super experienced teams with super experienced IGLs or veterans around him. So he's a player that has a lot of development left to go, even though he's already so good. So Floppy is a really interesting one for me because he was always set up to be a star player. And I feel like in Valorant, he's really going to get that opportunity, especially on this lineup, to do just that. So I'm really curious about his development. And for me, he's going to be a big focus for sure.
He's going to get the opportunity to develop not just as a player, but as he learns Valorant, as he gets thrown into the mix of everything that's going on. Cloud9 Blue is going to be a ton of fun to watch, but we've got to talk about Andbox as well as we see their roster pulled up on your screen. Again, this is a team that took down Sentinels, and they were close matches, but they looked good, man. A 2-0 win over Sentinels is definitely nothing to scoff at. See them here on your screen, and Dan, you can't look at this roster and you can't think about this matchup without thinking about Vice in particular. Vice, who played for Cloud9 Blue in one of the early iterations, now finds himself on the other side playing for Andbox, and there's a lot at stake in this match. The winner goes on to Challenger playoffs.
Yeah, Vice is a really smart player, someone who's very versatile, someone who's, you can trust on that Server or Viper. So this team has a lot of a great mesh of play styles of players. I think, Boy as well, seeing him on the Breach and just seeing a team that's actually incorporating more Breach for me is really encouraging. And I think, their tactical shenanigans, again, the reason why they're scary in scrims is because they're able to kind of just flatten teams with their tactical display. But it's about finding that balance when you're actually hitting the competitive matches. This is actually typically why I think Sentinels have been so resilient, is because they're such a good... It's kind of like, for those of you Counter-Strike fans who watched during the Fnatic era, when Fnatic first came up, with Olaf Meister and JW and Crimson, so on and so forth. That was a team that wasn't immensely tactical, but they were extremely good at adapting in the chaos in the mid-round and playing those scenarios that you can never prepare for. And that's something Sentinels are good at. And that's something that if Andbox starts to develop that more and more over time, that plus their tactical gameplay is going to really send them soaring up the rankings.
And that was really one of the things that we saw on display against Sentinels just yesterday. We'll get a chance to see how they fare against Cloud9 here in a minute. Let's take a look at the two players that we're going to be highlighting specifically in this matchup. We mentioned him a moment ago. It's Vice. The one of the more recent additions to Andbox has a history of playing against Cloud9, playing on Cloud9 in this matchup. I want to say this is one of the first times these two teams have matched in these rosters as well. And the stats really speak for themselves. They may not always be lighting things up and they may not be top fragging, but the value that they provide to their team is often immeasurable.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely... you're going to be looking at these guys for the setup, ultimately, but also not just the setup, but the close. Because, typically, of course, we look at a duelist, it's kind of the opposite. You want to get them to create space, to take the early, openings and to make things happen. But, in terms of closing down rounds, you're often going to burn out those duelists eventually. And if they're not surviving, you're going to have people like Vice, left, Zeta left in the mix to make those really hard decisions in those clutch moments.
It's going to be good. We have the maps in. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. We know what's going to be off the board, and we know where we're going to be settling this bad boy. As you see here on your screen, Haven, Split, and then, if needed, Ascent. Remember, folks, this series, the winner of this series advances to the Challenger playoffs. Loser has to reckon with TSM on the other side. So we think about these teams. We think about the maps before us. And Dan, I want to get your thoughts on Haven specifically first, right? A map, 3 sites, often lends itself to the attacking side because they can dictate the pace of the map more and they can decide where they want to apply pressure. Do you give a nod to either team given the map we're headed to here?
I think it's a difficult one for me. I think generally speaking, I'm sort of feeling Cloud9 Blue, but Andbox are kind of giving me those vibes of this could be a breakout run for them. I think against Sentinels, teams will be a little bit on edge when looking at Andbox and playing against them, but it feels like things are sort of coming into shape a little bit. So it is a hard one for me to call, but I do like how methodical Cloud9 Blue are going to be looking on a map like Haven. And generally speaking, you know, this is a map at the same time which benefits if you have a very stylized approach. You can get a lot of stuff done on that attack. So I think Andbox, I think if they're going to win this one for me, it's going to be, you know, in doing well on that attacking half. I think that's where the game is going to be.
Well, let's hop over to Agent Select and see what is going to be entered into the fold between Cloud9 and Andbox. Because really, we highlighted a couple of agents specifically a few moments ago with the Breach we mentioned. We also mentioned the Sova, and it doesn't look like, actually, at least for now, it doesn't look like we're going to get much of a Breach. For Andbox, Vice is going to be on the Sova, Boy on the Omen, Ye on the Signature Jet, Seb going to be playing the Sentinel, and then the last duelist, the secondary duelist for Andbox, is going to be Mata on the Phoenix. And for Cloud9, you still got Mitch hovering, but will likely lock in that Cypher. There it is. Poise on the Reyna, Leaf on the Raze, Zeta playing on the Sova, and then last but not least, Floppy, the most recent addition, who's been really the center of so much buzz around the community recently, is going to be rocking that Omen. You take a look at the compositions, Dan, is there anything that stands out in particular to you?
I don't think there's anything that stands out per se. I think in terms of the picks for the players, they all look pretty run-of-the-mill and standard. If you've been following Andbox or Cloud9, these are the standard picks you're going to be most likely to see from them. So it's really just going to be about the execution. And given that, you know, Cloud9 is starting off on the attacking side, you know, I was talking about how that for me, Andbox and their attacking half is really going to be where the game is won or lost. It's actually Cloud9 that's starting off on the attack. And again, this is a map which can be pretty attacker-sided, especially if you're going to win a few of those early key rounds where, you know, you're getting your default, you know, running. It's successful. You're making the right guesses. You're conditioning your opponents effectively on the defense. You know, you can really put any team off to such an awful start. So we'll see how that actually happens here as we see Cloud9 Blue off to begin with on that attack. But as I say that, it almost looks like Andbox are ready for something here, Doug.
Yeah, they may be pushing it a bit aggressively here, and so you'll see this sometimes, a curveball, a paranoia, and a dash really aggressively playing down C long, and it doesn't look like it's going to be as hot and as heavy as may have been predicted, but they did show some presence, right? They drew out that paranoia from Floppy, and now they're going to pull off the enemy.
Yeah, we get that presence up a short, and the question is whether or not this will be slowed down at all by Andbox. Got it. Well, Seb's actually going to try to meet the push, takes down Leaf, and the trades are looking fantastic for Cloud9. So they've overrun the side. They've got themselves a pretty solid position here. A 4 versus 3. This retake is certainly going to be difficult here for Andbox. We'll have to see what they're able to do, though.
It is going to be difficult indeed. You look at the health bars for the remaining members on Andbox, and you know, if you look at Boy, funnily, he may very well die here. Mata's the first to drop. Boy follows shortly thereafter, and it looks like for now Cloud9 have been able to tighten their grip on this site and look to try to win the pistol. We'll see if Ye can do anything about it, though. He does have a sheriff, right? And we've seen sheriffs, they can do some pretty filthy things, but doesn't look like it's going to be the case here. So Cloud9, they dial up a little something, they get onto A, and they win the pistol.
Lovely. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. You know, you get that early round working out for you, and you can start to, you know, condition your opponents. You have to, of course, deal with the eco round that's about to come here, but I think it was cool to see that we did have Andbox on the defense trying to take the initiative with that C long play, but unfortunately that did weaken their response to at least prevent the A site from being overrun. But that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes when you pick these early openings. You can't really predict what your opponent is doing off the bat.
I will find you.
So for Andbox, they're going to be bringing a couple sheriffs in to this next round, but no large force up. They're not buying into Stingers or Spectres even. And it also doesn't look like they're showing really anything aggressively down too long like they have in the past. Now, they did hit the dart from Sova down A long, but that's really all the utility they've shown so far.
Yeah, big focus here on this C-long push right now. I can see Leaf, you know, putting forward the boombot through into the smoke to try to punish anybody standing in the smoke, and that's a lot of presence, and you can see the respect of that presence from Cloud9.
Right.
Or rather, sorry, from Andbox. Sorry, he's, you know, rotating players over towards C, trying to be in position against this overwhelming force of Cloud9. He's now switching things up towards A, having just pull players away from that side of the map. You can see the response in the rotation, trying to get that info, creeping around in mid is Andbox, and unfortunately for them, it's going to be retake shenanigans. And unfortunately, that's generally tends to be very difficult when you don't have utility or, of course, any equipment. So perhaps just looking to try to steal some guns away, and you can see they've got a setup on both exits.
Yeah, so that really may be what they're playing for here for, as you mentioned, exits, try to hurt some of the economy, perhaps force them to buy up into that next round. And Dan, we just saw in that round some of what we were alluding to earlier, where the attacking team really can dictate the pace of the rounds. And you can hear that and go, well, Doug, of course, right? They're on attack. They're going to dictate the pace of the round more often than not. But you see how, because of the fact that this map has 3 sites, you invest a bit of utility on C, you make a bit of noise, and all of a sudden, especially in a situation where Andbox doesn't have ideal weaponry to fight back with, they've got to rotate around. Gosh, they just got absolutely mowed to shreds. You've got to respond to that, right? So you see them all book it towards C, and then Cloud9 says, all right, we got you where we want you, and they can waltz into A for free.
Definitely, and that's a great way to play an anti-eco. Just sort of punishing the fact that the team on the pistols needs to make those quick adjustments, and they have to gamble. And so great punish there coming through from Cloud9 Blue, and it's going to be now the first gun round. So we'll see Andbox with more to work from, and I'm curious whether we'll see something passive, or if they'll just try and to get some early information. And it seems like that could be the case, looking to farm that ultimate orb there on the A long side of the map and have presence on A short as well. And so Ye is peeking that, and with the forward dark cover, this is a fantastic way to sort of prevent the Cloud9 team from really running the default as they want. But they're adjusting quickly here, Doug. They're going to go for the garage take immediately.
And there's not anyone there. I mean, they're going to be able to take it for free. There's not even someone playing in window, so they're going to be able to take a good bit of that space away. But what I'm curious of is how much impact is Floppy going to be able to have from long? He's going to be able to smoke things out now as they blast onto the site. Seb patiently waits as one dashes through, and he's able to get 2, not able to get the 3rd as Floppy comes up huge. Takes him down. Numbers advantage in favor of Cloud9. A slight one, but a numbers advantage nonetheless.
There's backside control coming in here for Andbox. Yamada making their way forwards. Great frag onto Floppy. And with that, there's certainly massive issues here for Cloud9. How do they get the spike onto the site right now? And Poise is going to be sitting right there. And Andbox are more than ready for it. Fantastic retake effort. Cloud9 just couldn't quite get far enough up onto the site. And Seb, I think the credit really belongs to him. His efforts there from Logs were absolutely phenomenal.
And it was after watching Leaf blast across the screen, right? He let that pass through. Then he was able to take care of some of the reinforcements, that were coming. And while all of that was happening, Dan, the spike wasn't on the site, right? It was still back in C. And I think it was that delay, not moving with that kind of put them in that spot where they couldn't really commit to the site as aggressively as they would like.
So now the question is, are they able to stabilize this one? Cloud9, once again, will be the recipients of this dark cover on A lobby. This is a hugely disruptive opening move, and it's, of course, it doesn't really cost you anything to do this. So I really love it when we see aggressive use of dark cover like this. And if it's the case that Cloud9 want to go back towards A at some point, they'll have to use utility to respect that and to clear it. It takes time, and that's a fantastic thing for Andbox, because they can throw that smoke, and now that's always going to be a question of just the extra time that's added onto the Cloud9 default. And you can see they're finally coming back to A lobby. They have to clear this, because if Andbox had players up here, they would know too much.
You mentioned it. They have to use utility to clear that out. So you saw Shock Dart, you saw Recon Dart, you saw a little bit of everything thrown in there to try to clear those angles out. There's still a bit left to get them onto A, and that's exactly what they've done. Leaf manages to get onto the back of the site. There's nobody home, as it looks like Andbox are just going to straight up play for the retake. So now Mata, keep an eye on Mata here, Dan. He does have the run it back. He's going to use that wall as well. Follow up with the drone curveball. Not opting to use the ult yet, as the spike continues to tick away.
That's such an awesome wall. And there goes the drop from Mata using the running back, and it's going to be Seb who swings off of that, able to take down one, but is still looking labored to get forward position onto that spike. In comes Boy from the back from short, doing all the damage, and that's enough disruption, but out comes the rocket from Leaf, able to take down one, but it's an effort in vain. But actually, maybe I'm wrong, because the time on the spike, it's not too much left here for Vice to be able to get the Steve Fuse. It's going to be a close one, but just about able to manage to make it work. Fantastic retake by the skin of their teeth. And Andbox able to fight back against Cloud9. What a critical round to win.
My gosh. And look, like, they threw everything in the kitchen sink into that retake, and Cloud9 responded with a good bit of their own, right? Leaf used the showstopper. They tried getting onto things, and Andbox played that so well. They invested utility well, and they're able to carry some ultimates into this round as well.
So the question for me now is, what are we going to see out of Cloud9? Not a great buy. Looking to focus their efforts. Of course, they have to mitigate the fact that they have worse weaponry by just using the numbers and just grouping up. And that's a fantastic elevation there from Boy. This really hard to... That completely breaks across their placement if you're poised. No way to win that fight. And falling back off of that. Yay out there. My goodness. Yay with the knives. He wants some action, but perhaps there's a little bit too much. And now it's a 4 versus 4.
I know exactly.
Yeah, may have hit off a bit more than he bargained for. Remember, folks, Cloud9 walked into this with pistols. So for them to find themselves at this position already is impressive in and of itself. They've stopped their attention towards B and out. Looks like they want to turn towards A. Mitch, the one exception, he's trying to cause shenanigans on the other side of the map in Garage. And I think that's actually where the call's going to be coming from, right? Mitch gets all the way back into defender spawn. He's going to get a chance onto Seb here in a moment. No, Seb wins that duel. That neural theft is going to be used. And now Cloud9, the options that they had a moment ago are much slimmer, and they don't have a ton of time, Dan.
Yeah, this is going to be so tough. Leaf able to make his way through, but he will be a sacrifice to gain forward position, but it's not going to really account for too much here for Cloud9. But yeah, you have to just really credit and respect the fact that Cloud9 has the ability to understand in the moment, if we just go for that heavy pressure towards A, given where Mitch is, he's going to be able to creep up into 4. We're going to create a hole in the map for him to lurk. Now, as you say, if he was able to get that kill on Seb, they probably win the round, crazy as it sounds. So, great stuff from them, even though it didn't work out.
Now they're going to have rifles into this round. Zeta, Floppy, both 1 point away. 1 point away from getting their ultimates online. We're going to take a very quick break to adjust a couple of things on the back end, make sure the audio is squared up so that both the game and Dan and I can continue to whisper sweet nothings into your ears for the next couple of hours. But Dan, with what we've seen in mind, you take a look at Andbox and what they've shown us so far. They're up 1 round. While Cloud9 started off hot, it's been an excellent response from Andbox.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see the back and forth, and it's so critical too that Andbox were able to just stop the flow, I would say, for Cloud9, because they were off to a great 2 rounds start. Then we had that situation whereby the response from Andbox was to send forward that dark cover in a lobby. And this really limits the options for the team on the attack, because part of the reason why this map is really hard on the defense is because, of course, you have to worry about 3 sites. The B site is you can definitely leave that open because it is easier to retake and to deal with and harder to play those post plants. So it's not an ideal finish for the attackers, but at the same time, it is obviously somewhat of a threat, an additional threat you don't have to worry about on the other conventional maps in that sense. But back to the point at hand, you have this element that if the attackers are able to pressure, around C, around mid, and around A lobby at all at the same time, your rotations are pretty long as the defenders, and you've no idea what's going on. So to be able to throw that dark cover, it then allows you to do a lot with very little, because you could, push behind that with 1 player. That player can get pretty close, get that information away from the opposing team, and that team also then has to respect that. They have to then be like, okay, well, we can't know if you know exactly what we're doing because you have that key piece of info on the extremity, so we have to at some point go back and clear that. So that slows down the round for the attackers, makes things a bit more predictable for the defenders, gives them more information, and allows them to stack more players towards mid and C if necessary, because they have a greater warning system towards that A side of the map. So there's just so much, that just that one small piece of utility can really mean a lot against a team that's defaulting. So usually the adjustment to something like that could actually be to kind of call the bluff and to actually just play past it and forward. And then what happens then is, a big rotation for the defenders, and then Cloud9 gets to reset the situation again. So that's one of the ways you can diffuse that play. But yeah, it's just interesting to see, what is the what is that kind of key adjustment at the beginning that helps to kind of win that information battle? Because that's something that's always happening between these pro teams. Is we don't want to allow our opponents to ever have more info than us, and at the very least, we need to know what's happening. And so the attacker's job is to prevent the defenders from knowing what's going on at any given moment. So it's good to see that Andbox are doing so much on the defense with that.
They are, and you mentioned the dark cover and how that really kind of opens up the map in a lot of ways for the defending side. I think one of the things that I want to keep an eye on from the attack is, will we start to see the Cypher Cage go over into A long that really kind of, in a lot of ways, serves as a dark cover in and of itself, in that you're kind of guessing, right? Like, you have no visibility, which is why oftentimes you'll see defending teams dart from A long in order to get some info into what's happening in the lobby, which looks like, given where Cloud9 is posted up right now, would be an excellent way to start the round. Operator in the hand of Ye as well. He's going to take a peek down too long. No one's going to be home. There's a dark cover that you mentioned, and with the hot hands to delay things. But you mentioned it, Dan, like, one of the options is you call the bluff, right? You push right into it. That's exactly what they've done.
Yeah, and even this time we saw the hot hands to kind of slow things down. It's partly because they want to farm that orb. Mado wants to get on top of those orbs, get the run it backs farmed up, and indeed, the drone comes through. The beambot was used towards A as well. So heavy presence so far. So Cloud9 don't have to go off of this into A, but they've caused certainly so much presence that they've drawn 3 players. And they can certainly predict this because it's been such a slow roll towards this A site that they should know about this rotation. So now what they can do in the mid round is that they can try to abuse this. And previously we saw, Mitch is one of those, is a lurker on the other side of the map, on the side of the map where there'll be holes now. So we'll have to see what Mitch can do, and also whether or not Cloud9 decide to bring the spike back. And they're beginning to do this. And now Cloud9, or rather Andbox, have to be like, okay, we've got to make an info play. We have no idea what's going on.
Right. Well, they do have a good bit of info of what's happening down C long. Ye at the beginning of the round was posted up there, pushed all the way up C long, and now they've got info on where the hit's going to be. And again, with such little time left, by process of elimination, they don't have time to really go anywhere else. Number 3 is going to be used. Ye's op sings, takes care of Floppy early on as Cloud9 try to get onto the site. They're all there, they're punched up, but what can Andbox do to hold them back? It doesn't look like they're able to do very much at all as they fall apart. Vice trying to tag up on the other side of the box, not able to do it. Mata drops as well. Vice is left alone. The setup looked great. They had the info they wanted initially, Dan, but once it got onto the site, once the chaos ensued, they fell apart.
Yeah, fantastic commitment there from Cloud9 boys, doing a really good job of just hammering into that C site. And again, there's so much to be said for when you play these drawn-out defaults. What you do is you force the defenders to use utility early on. You force them to kind of mix up their spots early on. You create a spot where your lurker, in this case, Mitch, can get somewhat of a forward position. So as opposed to just running a C split immediately, and having all this utility to play against and so on, you've drained a lot of these options for the defenders. So Cloud9 really finishing that round really well, and they're looking to set up for what could be a really explosive C long play. And look at what we have here. It's also a play coming in from the likes of Andbox. There goes the dash. The whiff, though, unfortunate. We'll have to see how Cloud9 react. Are they going to keep going? Looks like they will, though.
Fury coming online from Zeta. Let's get on the side. It's actually Leaf who's able to get the first, and Zeta follows up shortly thereafter as Poise continues to push deeper and deeper into the belly of the beast to try to get control of C for Cloud9. Meanwhile, Mata just on the other side of the cage. He spotted him, but Mitch was able to get away with his life. But that's enough info, Dan, to understand where that pressure's coming in from. When you're outnumbered like this, it makes it so much harder, and now they know the jig's up, right? We saw Mata. We know where he is. We know he's last. They're able to play this so much more comfortably.
Yeah, this was a fantastic call from Cloud9. Let's look at, why is that the case? We had them conditioning Andbox suddenly saying, okay, we're going to start, we don't care about your dark cover in A lobby. We're going to start challenging that. We just had such a successful round off of a slow default with that opening around A. And so either, Andbox are in a situation where they decide to either double down on A and keep doing the same thing, expecting that Cloud9 will go towards that A lobby, or they just play passively there. It was the case that they were actually, still thinking that there was this A lobby play coming through. And what instead then happens is Cloud9 says, we think you guys are going to stack more towards A, so we're going to go for a super fast pace towards C, where you're going to have very little help because you think we're going to go towards A at that timing. So really great calling so far from Cloud9. That's going to give them the 4-3 advantage, as once again we're back to an A lobby play.
An A lobby play where Andbox is not going to have nearly as much to work with as far as weaponry goes. Just pistols across the board. You see, while Andbox was able to take the lead, Cloud9 roar right back to take back what they would argue was rightfully theirs. They've got heavy weaponry. They're just, I mean, really full sending at this point. And why the heck not? Leaf going in first with the showstopper, not going to connect. He's actually not able to connect with the rifle as well, but that's because his teammates were able to clean everything up around him, looking for more of an aggressive position, not able to land the jump. But at this point, Dan, the site's theirs.
Spike planted.
Absolutely, and there's really not all that much you can do on these pistols. And again, this is another great call from Cloud9, and the reason why is because the previous eco, what happened was Cloud9 played a bit slower. They pressured heavily towards one side of the map to pull all the rotation, and then they went back to the opposite side of the map where the site was pretty empty. Now this time, they show lots of presence, making it look like A, and hey, you know what? It is actually A, and they get onto the site super fast, and Andbox didn't rotate everybody super fast because they were worried that there would be a double back. So again, Cloud9 really in the heads of their opponent right now.
Once again, highlighting how the attacking team really can kind of like tug and pull the defending team around just by a little eye candy, right? Tease them a little bit, make them think twice about something, and then hit them where they aren't expecting. And now we're going to see an entirely different look from Cloud9, right? We've seen the dance around a lobby. Yeah. Now they're investing a little bit. They're playing slowly, but they're showing presence towards mid-garage.
Oh, and Floppy's ready to punish this.
Andbox does it again, but Floppy, as you said, is in a great spot. Takes care of Mata initially and then backs up. Yeah, Ye's made it through. He's good for one.
Down, attacker
he has a decent idea of where Floppy is as well. There's Floppy, lands the shots. The Vandal's good to give him the kill.
Here goes Seb trying to make the contact towards Garish. It's traded out there, 2 versus 3, however, for Cloud9. Definitely against it at this point. You know, Ye's got that flank shut down. He's got the spike under his control. Horrible situation for Cloud9. It's going to be very hard to fight their way out of this one. However, with that said, Zeta able to take down Ye, so he can potentially recover the claim of that spike, but there's been so much time. The reinforcements has already arrived. It's a wild swing coming through that will not work whatsoever for Cloud9. And in fact, Andbox, with that push up a lobby, find a lot of success. And I think a lot of it, Doug, is the fact that there are a couple 1v1s that were forced, and in a spot where Cloud9 didn't want to take the 1v1s, but they had no choice. So that timing worked out wonderfully.
And like Dan, you saw them, but both of these teams, you've seen how they're willing and they understand the importance of fighting around this A lobby control. Floppy was there. Right? Floppy knew that it was coming because Andbox had shown it before. They walked right into his crosshair, but he just wasn't able to get both.
Standing ahead.
Nice coming out for Ye, and he's looking for that action around short. There goes the boombot though, so that does prevent him from going forward for the peak. Spike is down there though, and there goes the drone as well. 3 players on A in defense here for Andbox. Yay! With the knives, they would take down one, and there could be more, but just slightly a pixel off, and Zeta will punish. And that's a 4v4, Doug. So this is a great spot for Cloud9. They can reset off of this. Looking for the garage control, converting through the doors, and now it's the 3v3. Still advantage Cloud9.
And now they really, because they've shown A and because they showed garage, again, Andbox are in the spot where they're like, well, shoot, guys, like, we don't know where they're going. Right, and because of that, Cloud9, they're playing this so well. They cut noise, really make them guess, think about what's going on, and then draw out that utility. See, Vice has to use his drone to make sure that they know where they are, but that's going to give them all the info. Boy is close enough to where he's not going to have to use this from the shadows to join the party. 40 seconds left on the round. Mata's good for the swing. He's got one. He had the ult. He drops. Vice looking to make a little magic happen as well as Mitch is going to use the neural theft. Good for one. Down to the 1v1. He doesn't have the health advantage, and boy comes up big for Andbox to tie him up at 5.
Oh, these rounds are really close. So many close rounds between these two teams. We kind of called it. You know, both of these teams we're sort of thinking to ourselves, okay, which team is actually going to win this series. I don't care about the statistics. Both these teams have been going through so many roster changes. Both teams looking like they're coming into form right now. Arguably honeymoon periods as well. Who really knows? But we know what we do know is that both teams are looking great. And so far, it's been such a close matchup. The rounds that have been won has so often been very close. Despite the fact that Cloud9 have been making great calls on the attack, Andbox have been making great adaptations. And into this next one, we'll see what looks like more of an investment towards mid and what should be garage control.
Deploying drone.
Oh. So this is a slightly similar to look to what we saw, but this time the spike was leaning towards A initially, where both Floppy and Mitch were to ensure there's no pressure coming in. The Hunter Shooter coming out from Vice to clear out the middle of the map, or excuse me, Garage. As Mod is going to use his ult of his own, he's not able to land anything.
Some information though for Matters as to what's going on, and so it's an interesting situation if you're Cloud9. You've been stalled out a little bit too long here. You don't necessarily want to commit when the rotation's in, so they've got a minute to go, and they might be thinking of either just delaying and then executing on C, or they pull out of these positions. But they can't be sure if mid is being pushed. They have the tripwire ready for A, so they know that A hasn't been pushed, so they do have the option to walk back. But it looks like, given the fact that they're holding, they're going to go for a recommit into the C site for a garage split, and you can see that the defenders on the minimap are kind of moving slightly away from that C split potential, but they are giving up the A side, so still a great response time coming through on the defense.
Good paranoia, and you saw Boy use this from the shadows to get back behind C-Long, got all the info that he needed. It's actually Ye who's going to show up a bit late, and by the time he gets here, it might be over, as Cloud9 just mows Andbox down.
Planted.
Yeah, and Ye doesn't really have a choice here. He has an op, he just kind of has to save it.
Yeah, for sure. That was pretty brutal. Lovely stuff on the entries from Cloud9, and it was a difficult spot because we never had that A lobby push. I actually think that maybe the round could have looked slightly different had we had Andbox actually getting rid of that tripwire on A lobby. That is, I think, something new. I don't know that we've been seeing the trips there consistently, because typically we've seen those slower defaults where A lobby control will go towards Cloud9, then they'll fall back out and so on. But this time around, that one tripwire gave them the confidence to know precisely what had happened. That either Andbox is playing, players on A, or they're playing at least in a way where they're not sure what's going on. And it's a couple kills from Ye.
Oh my gosh!
All right. He's gonna keep that operator alive, and hey, maybe that's the diff for the last round. We'll see.
30 seconds left.
And like, so Dan, we mentioned it while it happened, right? Boy using the From the Shadows to get back onto C-Long. He saw everything, right? They knew where the hit was going to be. But even with that in mind, it felt like Andbox was just hair late on pulling the trigger on the rotate.
Yeah, we'll see if there's a recovery to be made to tie things up going into the end of the first half here. Again, Ye on the jet kept that operator alive. That's a huge deal. He's actually peeking aggressively down mid. Oh, he sees a hat, but unable to find the shot that he's looking for. And Boy, having to dodge the Hunter's Fury, but not for too much longer. Leak will put him out of his misery, and Cloud9 once again storming into the C site, and there is nothing to stop him as they mow everybody down again. And, well, the operator not really coming into play here, unfortunately, for Andbox. Nothing working out for them. 7-5 at the end of the first half. Great stuff from Cloud9.
Yeah, and again, on the attacking side, you expect them to walk away with a bit of a lead, and you really felt the gun difference in that round there, right? Both Boy and Seb had Spectres going into that round, and there were a couple of rifles on the side of Andbox, but other than that, when you see Cloud9 storm onto a site like that with reckless abandon, knowing that they had the weapon advantage, it just looks easy, right? Like, it almost looks effortless in how they're able to take that poise, just holding W and really picking people apart left and right. So for Andbox now they find themselves on the attack, right? And we've talked about how this side should technically be favored. A 7-5 half while you're going into the attacking side, that's not terrible, Dan. Early presence from Cloud9 across the middle of the map as they send Poise and Leaf. While Andbox are looking to get onto A. So far, so good as Floppy drops.
Great opening coming through there. Oh, Cloud9 able to defend, and that's a spike down on the ground. We'll see Poise trying to recover the situation. Does have some teammates to help him out as well. It's looking like everything will be back in order here for Cloud9. However, Boy is still alive and kicking. He's got that ghost in hand. However, he needs that first opening. If he can find a way to just make it into a 1v2, might be a world where he can find some extra value in these following engagements. But it's that first one that's so difficult here. Oh, leave with the reload. That might be the chance gone. Now, Boy's element, or rather surprise advantage, is gone. No more advantages to be had.
Well, he's good for one, but that's really all he's good for. You're right, Dan. Like, the best thing he had going for him there was the fact that they had no idea where he was. If he's able to isolate the gunfights down to a 1v1, maybe, right? Like, maybe you get out of there, robbing that round away from the opposition, but it was a really impressive hold from Cloud9, and again, it looked really good out of Andbox, right? They get onto the back of the site, they get the opening pick, and then Leaf happened.
It's beautiful. And not so beautiful for Andbox, of course, who are off to not the start that they were looking for. Cloud9. We're going to get the pineapple thrown straight through to a lobby. The paint shells will cover the pickup of that ultimate orb. But yay, with that peel off of Floppy with that Sheriff, that's not a good look here for Cloud9. You never want to lose a player that early when you're playing against the Eco. Definitely dangerous. 3 players on A. The entire map here, actually, on the defense is pretty open, so they have to get information. They'll do so with the drone.
Drone and Poise following shortly behind him. Spotted one. That's big. That should help Cloud9 considerably. As Ye drops, and as you mentioned, with the map being open, they can really go wherever they want. They turn their attention towards C. The paranoia is going to be the tip of the spear as they funnel onto the site. Nice and a great spot to place spoiler, but no, he's going to drop as well, not able to land the shots. As Andbox get the spike down on C.
In comes the retake. Oh, Mana from the back. He's got that Sheriff, and they didn't see it coming. 2 dropped on the ground, but still, that weapon advantage is too great. Cloud9 come away. I mean, they certainly didn't come away cleanly, but they at least come away with the W, and that's important. The spike went down, 3 kills were made. Andbox has set themselves up nicely going into this first buy round, and that's my camera that just fell on the ground. 1 second.
It was an excellent response, right? And even as you mentioned, like, Andbox almost played spoiler twice. Ice was in a great spot. Mata was in a great spot. Cloud9, they didn't get burned the first time. I mean, not badly burned, but they got burned the second time. It was certainly closer than they would have liked. But as you've mentioned, Cloud9 are now going to be able to ride a bit of bonus, right? They've got something to work with here. Leaf's going to have the judge, and he's 1 point away from having a showstopper online, while Andbox are going to have rifles across the board. So they've taken it. I mean, a very aggressive, very intentional bit of space down garage, and because of that, they're really able to mosey onto C for free. Meanwhile, you see Sebs on A on the other side of the map. He knows that there's nobody over there. He's actually going to be able to get back into the defender's spawn, and he can really blow this up if left unchecked. While the fight ensues on the site, Paranoia is going to come out. Leaf looking for a little bit. No, he's not able to get anything. Andbox able to stand strong. They picked 3 of the members of Cloud9 apart.
One enemy remaining.
And now, just Mitch in a 1v3. He gets picked apart as well. An excellent response from Andbox.
Yeah, so important to just get on the board straight away. You know, we already saw, we mentioned that they set themselves up nicely. If they are able to get that victory, the economy is crushed with the 3 kills they'd made previously. You know, that forced Cloud9 to have to spend way more money than they wanted to. And now they're in a spot where, you know, they're looking to half buy as opposed to having a full buy here. You know, it was beautiful work from Andbox. And now, you know, I mentioned it, you know, they're a great team in terms of the tactics, in terms of, you know, controlling their opponents on the attack. This is an attacker side map. Of course, they have to keep it going, and we'll see what they're able to do this. We get the knives coming out from Ye, and he said that allows him to save, so we should see an operator on him possibly in the following round, but what is the play here? That dark cover. When you see that dark cover, you are thinking, they must be pushing up behind it, but instead, Doug, we have 3 players towards Garage. It's a trap.
So the question that remains is EA going to have the balls, quite frankly, to check it and swing out? No, they have to play cautiously and look. Vice has to use his drone to clear that out because, as you said, they're guessing. They have no idea. Meanwhile, Cloud9 once again dialing up pressure across the middle of the map on lighter weaponry. We see them dial this up a lot in Andbox, even with the shenanigans of the dark cover and the pressure across the middle of the map. They seem to be able to hold it off just fine.
Ooh, alrighty. So yeah, it's looking pretty good for Andbox now. So they've done what they needed to do to kind of get back some of those early rounds. They're looking pretty confident, and they've got to deal with another buy to force out another eco for Cloud9. So far it's looking good. And the other dimension that is new is that we see the operator in the hands of Ye. So the question is, where does Ye want to try to get the opening there? It's looking like C long to begin with, but there is a tripwire there, which does tell us that despite early presence towards C long, we're likely going to see Andbox then go back towards the A side of the map. So we'll have to see how it pans out. Zeta with a shock dart. Not going to connect to anybody. And look how strong this presence is on C. And the drone goes out garage as well.
So he uses to run it back, and he's able to provide value for it already. It wasn't just information. He takes care of Zeta. He clears out garage and the middle of the map, so now they know what's safe. But the question is, will they dial up more pressure towards C? They have two members squatting on the site now, Dan. It's open. It's wide open.
Yeah, this is so tough. So tough for Cloud9. That's a big win, though, taking down Vice in window and mid. That at least allows a retake scenario where you don't have to worry about that flank. But speaking of which, From the Shadows comes through, and they may not realize that was cancelled, so they may be worrying about the flank possibly. That was part of the reason to do that maneuver. But here is Ye connecting every shot with the operator, making it look so damn easy. And Mitch is all he could do to maybe squeeze out another kill, but not even that's going to go his way as Seb shuts him down. And Andbox coming back into this one with fire.
I mean, even that kill across the middle of the site in B window, Dan, you get that kill and you open up your retake possibility so much more, right? Because then you can expose working through garage. Then you can push in from that area of the map as well, and not just defender spawn, but even with that kill in mind, Ye's just able to, what was it, 3 with the op into the defender spawn. There was nowhere really for them to get easy access onto the site.
And that early presence C-Long once again. This time looking to maybe even go even harder than before. This looks like a more just straight up C hit. They haven't really got too much towards A. They've got their lurk towards grass. In Seb on the Cypher. And they walk into a free site. Lovely. That's what you want to see. It was a gamble from Cloud9's defense. They're going to have to play retake now. And it's certainly going to be a tough one. Or they could just try to play for exits. One of the two.
And remember, Ye's operator is still online. We saw just how good he can be with it in the previous round. And it's not Ye this time, it's Vice, who's able to get a couple. Ye joins in on the action as well. And the pistols seem to be working. But Vice, unreal.
Yep, certainly looking like they have a fast pace to them. And it's going to be interesting now to see again, like what Cloud9 try to do against this, because when a team starts playing really fast, you can try to gamble by playing kind of defensively, but what tends to be better is taking control as the defenders, trying to win something early in the round. And we're going to see a heavy commit towards the A side of the map. That's exactly what Cloud9 are going to be doing, and they've chosen A. But the question is, how much are Andbox going to throw into this side? We see right now, they may be just playing their luck. We'll have to see.
No operator in the hands of Cloud9. But what they do have is presence. As you see, they've already sent boys really all the way up. Floppy's doing it as well. So they've taken... I mean, A is not an option right now for Andbox.
Certainly is not. And you got to ask the question, too. With Andbox, they're looking to maybe catch anybody rotating back, because maybe they're feeling a commitment towards that A site with that dark cover. The drone goes through, so this is a great mid-round information finding from Andbox. This is going to help them to know what call to make. So the drone doesn't really see much. It's dealt with, so they're just going to go straight into B. This is a beautiful call.
Zeta's in a good spot. So Zeta's got the Hunter series in a good spot. You see him like lining up for it. And there it is. Zeta's using that Hunter Fury to try to clear out the middle of the site, and it's going to push the remaining members out of B and into the links, and hopefully into the warm, welcoming arms of the remaining members of Cloud9. Poise able to take care of Vice, who is causing fits in B window. And now the remaining members of Andbox, they're just trapped on the site, right? Now the spike is going to go down after being delayed as long as it was. You see the remaining members of Cloud9 slowly creep their way forward, slowly tighten their grasp on the site. Poise, good for Mata already. Ye looking to dance around the bullets, around the utility that was coming his way, not able to do it. Mitch gets 2 big ones, and Boy's left alone in a 1v2. He's got a good shot on him. He lights up for him. Ooh. He's good for 1, but Zeta trades it back, and he gets the defuse. Cloud9 take the lead.
Oh, I was feeling it, Doug. I was feeling it for Boy there, but unfortunately for him, doesn't pan out. And, you know, that's the first round in a while for Cloud9. And we talked about previously, we said, okay, there are 3 sides, but that B side, although it's an option, there are downsides to it. There are trade-offs to having that extra side. It's hard to play the post plant. It's the easiest side to retake, ultimately. And we can see a great effort on this retake. Wonderful teamwork, great spacing and coordination in from Cloud9. And what an important round to win. It already started to feel like Andbox are running away with the momentum, but in fact, we have Leaf on the operator now as well. Really looking forward to seeing how that comes into play, and it looks like he's going to be up on the C site of that elevated position, looking over the dark cover possibly.
So you see Ye has an op, and he uses Blade Storm at the beginning of the round. Ensured that there was no presence coming in from A long. So oftentimes you'll see a Jet use the Blade Storm and then dash all the way up to try to see if there's anyone pushing in from A long. Because of the pressure that Cloud9 have shown, as we saw Vice in the previous round, read that like a book. This time there's nobody home though.
Yeah, lovely gamble actually. I like it from Cloud9, taking some risks, having way more players towards C and B, leaving A very open, just up to Floppy to defend this one. And a few sound cues will cause a huge rotation because there's not really all that information for Cloud9. And this is beautiful because right now we can see that Andbox are walking back towards the C side of the map after causing a 3-man stack towards A. Now Cloud9 have to get some info here. And some of the info is actually in this forward position from Mitch. We'll have to see what he's able to see or find, but they have no vision on C long. There's just a tripwire there. That's all they have.
Just getting impatient. Oh, and Mitch wins the fight anyway. Can you imagine he's going to use the neural theft? There it is. You mentioned that Cloud9 needs information. They've dialed it up. They've got everything they need. With that, Andbox is still going to continue to try to get on the site. They're on there. They haven't tried to stick the spike down yet. 13 seconds left. Ye's Blade Storm causing problems. Looking to get the spike down as well. Zeta lurking around the corner. He's in a good spot for him. Yeah, Zeta's good for 1. Zeta looking for more. He's going to get cleaned up at the hands of Mata, and Floppy's left alone.
That was almost so good for Cloud9. If Zeta's able to get that backside control, hold on for Floppy to rotate in, they probably could have cobbled together some kind of a retake that would look decent. But unfortunately, for them, Andbox are able to hold things down. It was pretty damn close. And the information, as you said, that timing from that swing out of garage from Mitch, once you see that it's Seb on that position at that time of the round, you know it's the lurk, and you know precisely what's happening. So they know at that point that they see him that it's going to be a C-long, send it, as it were, and it was. So Andbox tying things up. This is neck and neck, Doug, all the way in the first half now, and also the second. And Floppy's going to save that operator. And it has been difficult at the early points of the round to really get any love with the operator. The angles have been mostly shut down by utility. So unless there's a very aggressive play to be made with this operator, and they don't have a Jet, then we may not really see any opening frags from it, at least for Cloud9's sake.
Now, so Cloud9's they're in a bit of a mixed spot, which is certainly not where you want to be when you're this late in the map. And it doesn't look like they're going to be dialing up anything aggressive either. Floppy's got the op, checking down C long. He's not even going to get a chance to know if someone's coming or not because of the utility that's already been used. And for Andbox, for as much versatility as they've shown us on their calling, this is a bit of a different flavor as well, where they're just waiting to see if Cloud9's going to be the one to push aggressive.
That's the big chance. Unfortunately, not happening for Floppy. Dark cover is going to be sent forward, and you don't know if they're going to be walking behind that or not, and then looking to contact out. That's always a scary reality, and so to try to figure that out, the drone goes out garage. Because if that was going to be the case, you'd probably get at least one player in grass. But they don't see anything grass.
And I really like this from Vice, so he's using the Hunter's Fury to draw a little bit of attention, but actually, Cloud9 have again taken the middle of the map. So now they've actually funneled off Vice. Vice is on an island. He's by himself, and if they sniff out where he is, they're obviously going to pick him to shreds, but if he's left unchecked, he's going to blow up this retake by himself. Andbox is already on A.
Yeah, this is very scary. It's not really the ultimate for Cloud9 to effectively retake this as well. It's going to be very hard to get back in, but Boy is able to take down Seb. And I don't know if that gun's recoverable. Working with the Frenzy, the weaponry advantage certainly serving Andbox, certainly serving Yay with that operator, able to knock them all down. And now it just leaves Zeta coming through from spawn with a shock dart. And that's a wrap for him. And 11 to 10, Andbox will take the lead, but what a sliver of a lead it is.
And for Cloud9, I love that we're seeing, like, and we've seen this from them a few times, right? Understanding that they don't have ideal weaponry. They can't fight toe-to-toe, right? Like, they can't trade blows in a comfortable way. They dial up that mid-aggression that has served them well in the past, right? Like, they've caught Andbox slipping a couple of times, but in that moment, it just doesn't pan out. And again, it was Vice who eventually didn't have to do very much, but he was in a great spot.
There goes the dark cover C window. Fast movement. The run it back gets popped there for Mata to get those entry sources. As he side catch is flopping in the back. Oh no, it's all falling apart for Cloud9 right here. Andbox's pace is just too much to deal with. Leaf maybe with the rocket can find something, but it's sent through the dark cover, and that's not happening. Oh no! Poison Leaf out of nowhere, Doug. I don't even understand, but it's happening for Cloud9. Some way they made it work.
What? So, okay. All right, where do we start? Andbox shows heavy towards C, right? You mentioned it at the beginning of the round. They full sent, but Boy uses the front of the shadows to get back into their spawn, right? He's able to get one of the kills on there, but then Boy swings out and just blows everything up. Cloud9's response to all of the pressure that was thrown their way was beautiful, Dan.
That was crazy. That was crazy. That was like a rocky moment there for Cloud9. Just getting beat in the face by Ivan Drago, and then all of a sudden, the tables turn.
You hit the
11
montage, right? Like the inspirational music, the training, and then they're able to punch right back. Oh man, this round is going very comfortably in favor of Cloud9, at least early on. 2 members of Andbox have already dropped. Now Andbox.
Oh. Yeah, unlucky for Boy there.
Yep. You're probably afraid.
Looking real good now for Cloud9. Comfort was the word you used, and it's certainly looking great. They got the slippers on, smoking jackets are on by the fire, and that's 12 to 11. With that said, the 12 to 11 scoreline is not that comfortable, so perhaps the slippers have to come off because this is the time to close right now. Andbox are looking really dangerous. They do have the money to get a good buy-in. We'll see a Spectre coming out on Boy. And in terms of the ult economy, it's actually not looking great for either team right now. You might... Yeah, there's not really all that much in terms of initiation coming from the ults and post-mods. So at least there's even footing for Andbox in that sense.
The one difference there Seb has is neural theft, so you wonder if they play something a little slow. Again, lean on the fact that the attacking side can kind of dictate the pace and maybe... Oh no, they've pushed right into him. Floppy's just on the other side of the cage. Floppy wins the gun duel. Seb was the one who went in aggressively. He drops, and it looks like Cloud9's able to continue to stick it to him, right? The aggression that they showed towards A pays off, and now Andbox has no choice but to flip the map.
Yes, it's going to be so difficult right now. Zeta able to take down Marta through the cage. They've got that backside control, the ever-important backside control, and they got numbers. It's up to Vice against 3 to try to make this one work, but it really seems like a nightmare, and indeed, they're going to have to wake up right now because the nightmare is over for now as Cloud9 clinch it 13 to 11, and ooh, that started to look a little bit desperate for Andbox towards the ends, the coordination and so on, but you know, Cloud9, they stayed strong. They definitely stayed strong, and that felt like anybody's, Doug.
It did. It really went down to the wire, and as you said, it was Andbox who just felt just a bit short. But Dan, even with that in mind, I think there's a whole lot of good to take away from both of these teams early on. One map in the books, Cloud9 showed their comfort really, in getting hit in the face and responding, right? And for Andbox, they showed that their performance against Sentinels yesterday was not a fluke, right? Like, they're really damn good. They look good. They're able to go toe-to-toe with Cloud9, and while they walked away from that map down a 1, and they've shown that they can hang.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the resilience for both teams, honestly, and I think it was interesting to see sort of the adaptations going, either way. And funnily enough, we really saw the edges. The difference was actually around A lobby, and the fact that Cloud9 were actually putting quite a bit of investment there and able to find ways to punish. We saw a great version of that in the last round, where it's like we see, Cypher trying to lurk through, and then all of a sudden there's a setup on short, as well as with Floppy, as well as players ready to go on long also to get all of the trades. So Cloud9, they just seemed a bit more ready for it.
They were, and they walk away with a lead in the series 13-11 over Andbox on Haven. And folks, if you had fun on the first map, I have good news for you. We have more in store. Split is just around the corner. We're going to cut to a break. When we return, map 2 between Cloud9 and Andbox. Stay tuned.
Change arrangement.
I feel like I need to defend my scene's honor here, because this is just turning into a bit of a dogpile.
Like in groups, always look.
I'm cutting you off here. I'm cutting you off. Cutting you off. He said G2's winning it. He said G2's winning it.
We need to wait till the next EU tournament, which could be in about 10 years now.
Take it with like a grain of salt.
No,
but
that's
that
no
being
fun.
said,
Take it super literally.
Spike defused.